Hello, everybody. I'm Lisa Shield, and welcome to Finding the Guardian of Your Soul. I am very excited about today's topic. It's one that I have been exploring in depth recently, and I think it's going to be relevant for many of you who are joining me today. And what we're going to look at is we're going to unravel the mystery of why so many men say they want smart, successful women, but then once they meet them, they don't pursue them. So, what's up with that anyway? Well, an interesting thing happens in dating, especially regarding how men see smart women. There was a study in the Personality and Social Psychology Bulletin that showed a strange disparity. Basically, that many men say they're attracted to women like you, women who are smart and successful, independent, who have their lives together. But then when they meet a woman like you in real life, they don't pursue you. So, what they say they want and what they're really ready for are two very different things. So, let's discuss how women's achievements align with traditional roles of masculinity. So, men have been taught through the ages that their main role for women in relationships is to be a provider, a protector, and a provider. Well, today, what's happened is women who are intellectually gifted, they have a lot of financial security, and they're strong and authoritative. All of that, without women even realizing it, can threaten a man's sense of masculinity. So, because they've historically been the breadwinners, suddenly women can do all of those things for themselves, and men are left looking at, well, what am I going to, how can I contribute to her life? She's fabulous, but she's got it all going on. And I know a lot of you are sitting there thinking, well, I'm not needy. I want a man, but I don't need a man to provide for me, to put a roof over my head, to buy me a dinner. I can do those things for myself. Of course, would it be nice for a man to do those things? Sure. But what's happening is men no longer know what their purpose is and how they fit into our lives. So, this is a very difficult contradiction for many women to understand, that a man can desire the most intelligent and accomplished women, and yet concurrently, they can have a deeply ingrained need to feel indispensable and valued in a relationship. And I really want you to think about this and flip the scenario. Let's flip the script. Let's just say that you're on a date with a man that you really like. He's got it all going on. He's, checking all the boxes. And that man looks at you and says, well, I want a woman, but I don't need a woman. How would you feel if you heard a man say that to you? I never had a man say something like that to me on a date, but I could only imagine that if somebody said that, I would think, peace out. Like I'm looking for a man who really needs a woman, who wants and needs a woman, who is longing for partnership and sees the value in that. Because the truth is that once you become a couple and you start to get into the territory of a committed relationship, you will develop a need for one another, primarily an emotional need. And so, even though you don't need a man to take care of you in the ways that our mothers, our grandmothers, and women did in the past, it is so important that a man not feel like he's superfluous in your life. And so, for so many successful women, what's happening is not only are we able to do everything pretty much for ourselves? But also, what happens is we're giving men the impression that they're superfluous. They're like an accessory, but not a necessity in our lives. And so it becomes, for men, they just, I don't know if you've ever had a man say this to you, but it's kind of the kiss of death when a man says, I just don't feel you need me. I was on a date once with a guy. I'd met him at the gym. He asked me out. He took me to a lovely restaurant. We had a terrific evening. And he drove me home and then walked me up to the landing. I was on the second floor, my apartment. And as we were walking up, I was feeling pretty good about the date. And when we got to my door, he looked at me and he said, when I'm on a date with a woman, I'm really listening for how I can fit into her life. Like, what does she need from me? And you don't need anything from a man. You've got it all figured out. And when he said that, I thought, well, I'm not needy. If you want a Malibu Barbie, you want some needy woman, who you can take care of. That's not me. And what I didn't realize he was saying was that I gave men the impression that I had everything I needed and that there was nothing I needed from them. And so they didn't know how to get to know me. They didn't know what they could do for me. They thought, I can take her to dinner. I can do all these things, but she can do all that for herself. Like, where do I fit in here? How is a man going to integrate into this woman's life? And I didn't realize, because I wanted to give men the impression that I wasn't a needy woman. So it's important for women today to understand that having needs doesn't make us needy. So wanting and needing the gifts that men can offer us doesn't make us needy. And what makes you needy is being emotionally needy and not giving yourself the kinds of support and all, but really being an emotional vampire, not having your life together, being emotionally messy. And I'm not talking about having moments where you're having a tough time and you need to lean emotionally on your partner. I mean, being a drama queen, just being an emotional mess and constantly leaning on a man or on your girlfriends or anybody to constantly process through all of the little ups and downs and challenges of life, which it can be draining for anyone in your life, especially for a man. I'm talking about healthy emotional need. I'm talking about being receptive to men, showing men how they can fit into your life and how you're willing to fit into theirs as well. It's a two-way street, but letting a man know how he can be there for you. So if you are a smart, successful woman today, it is more important than ever to show a man the ways in which you need him. And this is really tough because we've been taught this whole shtick about, I want a man, but I don't need a man. And I really want to challenge that belief. I understand that you do not need a man in the way that your mother or your grandmother or women in the past needed men. But we do need men. There are things that men give us that we can't get anywhere else. You're not going to make love to your girlfriends. I mean, you can try that if you want to, to each her own. But I don't think you want to go to bed at night and curl up in the arms of a friend. You want a man, a strong man who's there for you, a shoulder to lean on when you're having a bad day, or you lose that big deal at work and it doesn't come through, or you have a run-in with your boss or a falling out with a friend. You want a man there for you that loves you and that can say, don't worry, babe, I've got this. So many of us have only met men who have disappointed us and let us down. And many women that I've spoken to have never really experienced what it's like to have the love and care and protection of a great man. And I can tell you that those men do exist, but you have to be very careful. So I'm going to go into another part of this discussion right now. First of all, you've got to start to show men how they can be in your life and why you do need them. Because two people who are in a relationship, in order to feel safe and secure, both people have to feel needed. It's part of what creates the emotional bond in a romantic relationship, in any relationship, really. There has to be a mutual emotional need on the part of both people, which means you have to risk being vulnerable and allowing your partner to be there for you and do things for you. Otherwise, you cannot create that bond, which is the foundation of any deeply emotionally naked, loving, lasting partnership. That's the glue that holds two people together, that emotional need. And I'm talking about the kind of emotional need where, you have an ailing parent and you're dealing with a parent who may be dying and you need your partner to be there for you, or you're going through a pregnancy and you want the support of your partner as you go through the challenges, the unknowns, the ups and downs of a life experience like that. I'm talking about two people who are there for each other emotionally through thick and thin. That's the kind of deep emotional bond that you have to form with a partner if you're going to have a loving, lasting relationship like most of you are looking for. And so that means that you have to admit that you do need somebody. You need a man in your life, and you have to show men how they can be there for you. So this is very important, especially for those of you who have everything you need in order to survive. You have a beautiful home, you have good friends, you have a good family, you've got kids, you've got a great job. Once you have all of that taken care of, any man looking in from the outside will be asking himself, what does she need from me as her partner? And so it's up to you to learn how to express that. Now, here's the other part of this. Men today, many men, in fact, probably most men, are not as far along, are not as advanced in terms of their personal growth and their own self-actualization as many women are. So those women who are out there, who are building amazing careers, who are doing all kinds of personal growth work and all, in many ways, you may be more evolved, more advanced than the vast majority of men that you meet. And this is another piece of this. As women, we have to develop the ability to tell quickly if a man is truly available and ready for a relationship, and not keep investing time and energy, even in a guy that we really like, that we have great chemistry with, but who is not ready for the same level of commitment that we are. Now, I love attachment theory, and I think that it is a wonderful lens through which we can view relationships. But I will tell you that not all men who ghost or don't want to pursue you, not all of those men are avoidant. And an avoidant is somebody who is incapable of having a deep, committed relationship. There are plenty of men out there who just literally are not ready for the level of commitment that you are. And so what happens is they meet women like you who have it all going on, right? You're the full package, and they meet you and they know that you're the full package, but they don't pursue you because they know if they are going to date the full package, she is going to want to move towards a committed relationship that probably involves marriage in the not so distant future. And if that man is still building his career, he's still self actualizing, he's not yet done a lot of his own personal growth work, he may not be ready for the same things you're ready for, and he'll recognize that quickly and move on. Now, the unfortunate thing is a lot of you blame yourselves. You think, oh, I intimidate men. I'm too much for them. Why can't I find a man on my level? And I'm going to be honest with you. There are men on your level, but they're fewer and further between than the men who are not ready to commit. And so what we often do is we invest our precious time and energy into relationships with men who are basically showing and telling us that they really aren't ready for the same things we are. But we haven't found those men who are evolved, who have everything together and are on the same level as we are. And so we keep settling for these men, hoping that they will see how wonderful we are and get ready for us. Does that happen? Yes, it can. But for most of you, I wouldn't advise investing time and energy in men who clearly are saying, I'm not ready for a committed relationship. Or I love my career, or, I think I'm going to take a year off and just go to Australia to go surfing. That man is not the guy that is the best investment of your time and energy. You don't want to waste time on these men who are getting their act together. Will many of them find their way to a loving partnership? Probably over time. They're not all avoidant. They're not all incapable of commitment. In fact, I want to share a wonderful story. I was at the wedding. I actually went up north when I was living in Los Angeles. I went up to Northern California to perform the wedding of one of my clients. And her brother was the cutest damn thing I've ever seen. And he really was a genuinely great guy. He was kind to every single woman. I mean, just the kindest man. He would sit and, he talked to everybody. It didn't matter, the older women, the younger women. He knew how to connect with women. He was an absolute sweetheart. And I asked him, I said, so when is it your turn? When are you going to get married? And he looked at me and he said, well, not anytime soon. And I said, well, are you dating anybody? And he said, oh, I date a lot of women and I meet wonderful women. And I said, well, any of them that would be marriage material? And he said, oh yeah, a lot of them. He said, I meet a lot of women who are awesome. And I can only imagine that this man would have attracted some really great women. And he said, but I'm not anywhere near ready to get married. I'm young. I've got my life ahead of me. And yes, there will be a time where I'm ready to get married. But no matter how great a woman is, right now, that's just not where I'm at. I have other things, other priorities before I decide to settle down and get married. And this was a great guy. He wasn't a player. He was not a guy that would, he didn't have the kind of player energy or the kind of guy that would lead women on and, tell them what they want to hear just so that they would be with him. This man was incredibly clear about who he was and where he was in his life and who these women that he was meeting were. But he knew that this was not the time for him. And I really want you to get that. No matter how wonderful this guy is, if you met him, you would not change his mind. And he knows that there are so many fabulous women out there that once he would be ready to meet a great woman and settle down and get married and have a family, he would be able to do that quite easily. Maybe he would even go back to one of the women that he had dated if she was still single, and he would ask her out again and see where she was at, because he wasn't rejecting these women because they weren't great women. He was just saying no because of where he was at in his life. So it is extremely important that you learn how to let those men go quickly. Or if you do invest time in a particular guy that you really like, but who you sense isn't, at the same place as you, that you respect where he's at. You do not pressure him or try to manipulate him into getting married or giving you a ring or start doing any kind of shenanigans to try to force his hand, but that you give him space and time. If you're younger and you have that space and that time to do that, that's one thing. I still recommend that you date other men if you can and not focus on just one guy, especially if you want to have children, and especially if you're in your mid to late 30s. You do not have a lot of time to sit around and wait for a guy to catch up to you. If you're a more mature woman, let's say you're in your mid 40s or your 50s or 60s, and you're dating a man who doesn't seem to know what he wants. Again, it might be a good idea to let that guy go or to continue to date other men and not just focus on that one man, because you do not want to get emotionally involved with someone who's clearly telling you he's not ready. And you can't assume that just because the man is in his 40s or his 50s, he may have married later in life, he may have young children, that he's still getting through college, he may have recently come out of a divorce, and he may not be ready to get into a serious relationship again, no matter how wonderful you are, no matter how great the chemistry is. And I can tell you that once you meet a man who really is ready, a man who, like you, has it all going on, those men are different. They're just different. And they're fewer and further between than all these other guys, but they are out there. My clients find them. I found one. The women who work for me, my coaches in my my coaching program, have found the guardians of their souls. And yes, it took us all a little bit of time. It took us all a little bit of education. It took us all a little bit of work to make this happen so that we could learn the signs and let go of these guys who are not ready to commit faster so that we could keep the path clear for the right one. So if you're struggling in this part of your life, if you want a man, but you don't need a man, if you don't know how to open up your heart and show a man that you do need him and let him know all the ways that he can be a part of your life, if you do not know how to recognize the signs of the men who are ready so that you can let the other ones go faster, please go to lisashield.com, click the button anywhere on my website. It will take you to my free 45-minute presentation. You want to watch that. And at the end of that presentation, you can sign up for a breakthrough call with a member of my team, and we will show you how to get this solved. There are so many things you don't know, mistakes that you're making that are costing you precious years of your life, years that you could be and should be spending with the guardian of your soul. And this is a solvable problem. You may not have been able to solve it on your own, but I promise you, we have the highest success rate of any coaching program out there. And the most amazing thing is that I have been doing this for over 21 years. So please don't waste any more time. Go to lisashield.com, click that button, and sign up for a call now. And if you've already seen my presentation, I have a wonderful link here. You can go to, oh, I don't know if I know it. What is that link? Oh, I'm going to have to get it. I'll give it to you next time. Let me see. There are a few comments here. So look at that. So if you're just meeting a guy, what kind of way can you be vulnerable that's okay to share? Can you give some examples when you get a chance? I'm not sure when it's okay to ask questions if you take questions at the end. And I meet guys who tell me they are all about looks and want a Barbie girl type. Well, or Barbie type girl. So first of all, if a guy is telling you that and that's what he wants and that's not you, then, I would say next. I'm not a Barbie doll. I am never going to be I never was a Barbie doll. I will never be a Barbie doll. So, there's nothing I can do about that. And if that's what a guy is looking for, I wouldn't even feel comfortable with a man like that. So, I would let that guy go. So these are the kinds of things that we teach you in our course. We teach you how to ask for what you want and need from a man. And we go into great depth about that. But these are the kinds of things that you will learn from me in this program. I also like to know when you start talking to a guy on a dating site and they keep sending you tons of pictures of themselves, they're decent pictures, but just overwhelming you with pictures. They come off like they're looking more for validation. How do you tell them not to send so many pictures of themselves in one way? I would just very, very confidently say, I'd rather meet in person. Thank you for the photos, but I would rather meet somebody in person. And if it were me, I would probably write to a guy and just say, I'm really curious why you keep sending me all these photos of yourself. I think that part of the problem is that a lot of these men, what happens is they are very visual. Men tend to be very visual. And so they think that they just assume that women would they're hoping that you'll send them pictures too because they're visual. But no guy, no mature, grown adult man would be sending you tons of pictures of himself. I couldn't even imagine my husband having done that on a dating site with me. I mean, that's insane. It's just crazy. Adult men, mature men don't do that. So you have to really start to understand what to look for in a grown man and what distinguishes a man from a boy, because a grown man would never do something like that. And you need to learn those signs. All right, everybody, I'm Lisa Shield. Please also tune in to my other episode, Getting Inside the Right Male Mind. I do this episode probably about 2 times a month. It's with my husband, Benjamin Shield, and he has the most beautiful mind I know of. It is amazing to be able to hear his insights on dating, on what it means to be a man, on what men are looking for from women. It is an incredibly, profoundly insightful podcast. So please look for that as well. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Take care.